10th-ranked Miami, sitting at 10-2, the ACC at-large representative in the college football playoff, travels to Kyle Field to face 7th-ranked A&M, stands at 11-1, and the Aggies are favored by 3.5 points. This is the first college football playoff that either school is participating in. Texas A&M has not participated in any type of national championship or college football playoff setting since the 1990s, if not before that. Miami hasn't participated in anything like this since 2002. So this is historic for both of these programs, who have been on really a long hiatus from greatness, and now they have an opportunity to advance to the quarterfinals and play one of the best teams in America in Ohio State. And if they can somehow beat the Buckeyes, they can maybe advance on to bigger and better things. But they need to win this game first. And there are some key things that I'm paying attention to here. Most notably, we're only going to look on the on-field product. We know that A&M has home field advantage. We know that with a one-year sample, all the home teams in the college football playoff won. Big part of that was because Penn State was better than SMU. Ohio State was better than Tennessee. Texas is better than Clemson. And Notre Dame was better than Indiana last year. And then you add home field advantage on top of that. That's why a lot of those games were lopsided. This spread is sitting at anywhere from, I think, 3.5 to 5.5 in favor of A&M. It is early, so there is going to be a diversity in lines across the board. But a lot of that has to do with home field advantage. A lot of this line does. Books and power ratings view these teams pretty evenly, and I know that FPI views Miami as the better team on a neutral field. The trenches for these teams are a big part of their identity and a huge part of their success. They each have star pass rushers and defensive ends. If you don't know their names already, check out Cassius Howell for Texas A&M. He has 10.5 sacks on the year, and they also have some really nice linebackers, and nice as being conservative, with Tareen York and Scooby Williams and Damon Sanford, Tyler Onyedim, Albert Regis, T.J. Searcy. It's a defensive front that is capable, that is dominant, and then we have some kind of back and forth here between the Texas A&M offensive line and the Miami defensive line. Texas A&M has a impressive O-line with Trezon III, Demetrius Crownover, Armaj Reed-Adams, and Chase Basantis, and center Mark Naboo. But you look at Miami's defensive front, and Ruben Bain Jr. is among one of the most impactful defensive linemen, if not the most impactful defensive lineman in America. Surefire first-round pick. And A&M said that, you know what, he may not be the biggest impact on them. So there's already going to be some tension there. And these trench units are among the nation's best. There's tension there. Ahmad Moten Sr., Akeem Mesidor, David Blay, Ruben Bain Jr. They have good size there. They have had depth come through on the defensive line in a way that I and others didn't know whether or not they had that in the preseason, and they've stayed healthy there. Rutgers transfer Mohamed Toure came in and leads the team in tackles. Wesley Besant, Thrall Aguirre Jr. have done well, and this secondary has improved. So it's a great defense for Miami, led by their defensive line. Their offensive line for the Hurricanes is their best part of the offense. And for Texas A&M, they have an offense that is, among the nation's best and at the top in the SEC, very veteran-laden, and they have an impactful player in Cassius Howell on that defensive line. That is going to be the defining factor in this game. Quarterback could also be defining here, but I think that the trench warfare is going to play the biggest part because those units have such high upside. A&M's, I think, is a much lower floor than Miami's in the trenches. This channel will make you a college football expert and help you enjoy watching games and make more accurate predictions. So what are you waiting for? Like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, comment your thoughts, and watch the video all the way through so that you can get the full package, and check the description and pinned comment for more ways to help yourself and this channel. Where if one side really comes to play and wants it more and comes out and dominates, quarterback play might be totally irrelevant. That's how good these lines of scrimmage could be. I do think that with several weeks to prepare, and since neither of these teams played in the SEC title, so they're resting, they have an ability to be healthy, they probably got up yesterday. It's Monday at the time of this recording, so Sunday they probably got up seeing their matchup and started watching film and started dissecting their opponent. I imagine these quarterbacks will play some of their best football when you factor in the opponent they have to play. So that means quarterback ceiling is going to be a factor here, as I expect Miami and A&M to prep well, especially those two teams amongst all the teams in the playoff. Why? It's their first time here, and Miami wasn't exactly expecting to be here for much of the year, really half of the year after that second loss to SMU. And while A&M expected to be here, it's their first, and a lot of people have doubted them and have been talking negativity to them and to their way. So whether it's Marcel Reed, whether it is Carson Beck, they have both struggled with inaccuracy and inconsistency. They both have made dumbheaded, boneheaded decisions, whatever term you want to use. They've also made some nice throws. They also can really have an impact on a defense and have NFL upside. So which quarterback comes to play and plays the best? And which matches up best with the opposing defense? It's interesting because on one hand, Reed was in the Heisman conversation at one point later in the year, and he probably has better receivers than Beck does, and probably has a better offense or similar offense, but also they're very different stylistically. On the other hand, Miami's defense in every metric is better than Texas A&M's. This is where power rushing comes into effect. This does relate to trench warfare, but it also relates to the quarterbacks and the running backs and how much they are willing to be utilized in the ground attack. How do the running backs earn yards after contact? Whose feet keep moving forward, keep running forward, even after it seems like the play might be dead or stopped. Miami has only a 40.5% rushing success rate. They don't have a lot of long runs. It's a lot of short runs. Their rushing attack has improved recently, but part of that may also be due to the fact their November slate was pretty easy. A&M does not have the best rushing offense in the world either, but per success rate and in general, it has been a more productive unit than Miami's. A&M comes across to me as more of a finesse team. Miami is more of a physical team. And I'm not saying A&M isn't physical. I'm not saying Miami has no finesse or swagger. I think both are tough. I think both are admirable. Both are future consistent college football playoff contenders with the way they recruit and develop and the coaches they have. But they do have different styles. And I think that this is something that is going to impact the game and change the game that I believe really goes Miami's way, which is power rushing. Those explosive plays, when you look at how Miami and Texas A&M function, A&M is more likely to give up those plays along with more likely to produce them. So I think that really balances out. Pass rush is something to consider. When you look at Havoc rate, which a lot of that is TFLs and sacks, aggression by the defense, but also interceptions, passes defended, both of these teams are top 5 in those areas. Miami with a 17.8% Havoc rate generated, A&M with a 19% Havoc rate generated. So who gets to the quarterback more often? Who can rattle him? Who is in a better position to make interceptions, make plays on the ball, who disguises their coverages better, who reads the eyes of the quarterback better? This is shaping up to be a really great game. I'm close to making a pick. I know which team I'm leaning towards, but it is a little too early. This is anyone's ball game here. And I do think it is appropriate that A&M is favored because these teams are so even and have some similarities, and where they have differences, they kind of cancel out each other's strengths or weaknesses. So home field advantage can be the ultimate tiebreaker, and that obviously leans A&M's way. Another important factor, though, is the secondary. We've seen both of these teams. For Miami, it was against SMU. For Texas A&M, it was against South Carolina, and it was against Texas. We have seen these teams falter in coverage in key moments. A&M was able to get away with it against South Carolina because South Carolina sucks. They don't have good coaching. They're very momentum based, and they were an absolute mess roster-wise. Their roster was basically Lenoris Sellers and Dylan Stewart and a few players at secondary, and once a game Nick Harbor because he's just that athletic, and no one else. And really the only great players on the team were Dylan Stewart and Lenoris Sellers, and that was it. You couldn't get away with that against a much better team in Texas. And for Miami, I mean, those SMU and Louisville games were very, very messy. And the fact that they lost to those two teams, A&M lost to Texas, and yet Miami's power rated higher in FPI, you would wonder how in the heck FPI came to that conclusion that Miami is rated higher than A&M given some of their weird losses. But it happens, and the secondary has been a part of questionable areas with these defenses. So I think whoever can clean that up, and whoever, whether it's, locking down Malachi Toney for Texas A&M as he's Miami's biggest weapon, or whether it is for Miami making sure that Mario Craver and Casey Conception and Terry Bussey don't get open, or whether that circles back to the pass rush being more important than the secondary, some pass defense is going to have to step up here. Someone's going to have to. I didn't mention the run game that much, only because Miami's rushing attack, while improving, still has questions, and A&M's front, I think, is good enough to neutralize some of that. And then for A&M, their rushing attack in theory is better, but Miami's run defense and their D-line is one of the best in America. So I think a lot of this game will come down to line of scrimmage, and if that's equal, this will all distill into the passing game, the receivers, the secondary, and the quarterbacks. Thank you for watching. It's my mission on College Football with Sam to make you the most informed, knowledgeable, and entertained fan as possible. We aren't perfect, but we hit the nail on the head more often than we hit our thumb with the hammer. Make sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, comment, and if you're here, you've probably already watched the whole video. So thank you for doing those things.